Welcome to a special YouTube edition of One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week from Girls School is Enid Williams. We talk about the band's current touring plans and, of course, the band's great history. As it is with these YouTube versions, no co host, so let's get right into it. Here is Enid Williams.
Hi,
Hi, Enid. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. The last time we spoke was at the Heavy Montreal Festival, probably in 2011, and that was a
Yeah.
great show. And I don't know if you remember backstage, as we were doing the interview, my two kids roamed on to the set and were saying hello to you as we were doing the interview. Um, but I guess let's start there, actually. Tell me a little bit about that festival, because I'm in Montreal and you're coming to Montreal in a couple of weeks. What was it like playing at Heavy Montreal?
Oh, it's fantastic. We love playing festivals anyway,
Hmm.
and it's always great because you've got other bands and you've got people milling around who are, you catch up with people you've seen years ago, and it's just got the whole vibe bit. Yeah, it's really special.
Yeah, so now let's also talk about Girls School. You've got these two new live albums coming out, London 1980 and Glasgow 1982. Any particular reason why those shows were chosen? Are they sort of the best of? Were they just the ones that happened to be available? Just how did those shows come together?
Well, everything's been happening quite organically because we've been concentrating on writing new material and doing the Guilty of Sin album,
Hmm.
but other people have, we've had lots of record companies over the years and stuff gets passed on and stuff's always coming out that we don't even know about a lot of the time, especially compilation albums,
Right.
because you don't always control the early material. But, we've had some good relationships with the record companies, and they say, hey, we've got this material, we'd like to put it out, and we go, yeah, that's cool. So it's been very, things have just, people say, yeah, we've got this, we'd like to go with it, and if we're happy with it, we go, yeah, sure, that's cool. So a lot of stuff's all been coming together at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. Now, the Guilty as Sin album it's not available yet, as far as I know. Correct?
No, no,
Okay, so let's
we've
talk
still got
about.
some mix.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, let's
we've
talk
still
about
got
it
some
then.
mixing.
You're
Well,
mixing,
we've got we're touring with an EP. We've just done a limited edition for people that are coming to the gigs
right?
of three of the tracks that are going to be on the album. But we've written and recorded the album, and we're just finishing off the mixing.
Tell me about putting the album together, because it's been quite a while since you've put some new material together.
Yeah.
As you're putting this together, are you thinking back to the early '80s, going, "We need to sound this way"? Are you trying to create something completely new, or is it somewhere in between where it has to be new, but you don't want to be so far away from what you were that people don't recognize it?
Yeah, that's always. Um, well, we don't. We're not a band that kind of sits down and makes plans.
Right,
And there's three main writers in the band,
right.
and we're always, we all want to put our material on the album, which is great because then you've got it makes you up your ante, and you want to do your very best and be, have some of the good tracks. So we're all kind of working hard to get tracks that we love on. And I suppose to be very general, Kim tends to like real, the heart of girls' school. And so on the album, there's quite a few tracks that she's written, say, with Jackie,
Hmm.
and some of them are real fast double bass drum kind of tracks that you would associate with the early part of girls' school. And then there's always a few tracks from them that are kind of rock and roll, really. Again, Kim loves authentic. Um, yeah, she likes to keep recreating,
Right.
but really staying with how girls' school is as she understands it. Whereas I'm always much more experimental, and I keep reined in a little bit, but I'm always the one that wants to try pushing new boundaries. Um, And so I've written a couple of songs by myself and a couple with Jackie that, you know, they tend to be they're still Girls' School because we're still playing them, and one or two of the writers are Girls' School, but they're not necessarily exactly what you would expect. And we also, the way that it all came together, the producer was quite ill, and so it was very up in the air for a long time, and we really got things going quite late in the day. And so we went back over stuff we'd done in the past, and we had a few ideas that had been knocking around. We thought, oh, hold on, let's give this a go. And so I had a set of lyrics from the past, and we put all this stuff together. And what we've come up with is really, it's almost like, it's very much classic rock album, but covering a whole, almost like the history of rock music that we've loved, really. So, you know, it's hard to compare things, but, you know, some of the head down rock and roll might have a touch of AC/DC or ZZ Top or whatever in, and, you know, as soon as you've got double bass drums, it's back to the new age of British heavy metal. But then there's a few songs like a slower, not quite ballad, but, you know, we don't generally do slower songs. Right. And, you know, the odd hint of Iggy Pop or Bowie in there. And then, yeah, it's almost like a homage to the rock music that we've loved and have touched upon over the decades, all coming together. But we didn't sit down and make that plan. But I think, like Legacy, because of having three different writers with three different, we like a lot of the same music. But as I say, I tend to go left field, and Kim likes to find new ways of doing what is Girls' School as understood by most people. Right. You know, it's sort of, sometimes we go with what excites us, what we're passionate about. And I think it's quite good to have a mix of stuff, but it's always got Girls' School at its core.
Yeah, you know, and speaking of what really defines Girls' School, obviously, is the album Hit and Run. Right? I mean, that's sort of the seminal one. Would you not agree?
Yeah. In many ways, I think it really does sum the band up. Yeah.
And you know, after that came out, you had Screaming for Blue Murder, which you played on a bit, but then you decided to leave the band. What was that decision based on? Because here you are at the pinnacle. The album charts very high. It's doing very well with Hit and Run. You know, Screaming Blue Murder didn't do as well. And you say, okay, I need to take a break. Tell me a little bit about that decision and why it was made.
Well, I didn't play on Screaming Blue Murder. It's Demolition, because in Britain, we had Demolition and then we had Hit and Run. Right. And in Canada, they took what they felt were the best of the two albums and released it as Hit and Run. Mm-hmm. So it's slightly different to what was released in Europe.
Right. And I'm looking from the Canadians' perspective.
Yes, absolutely. Well, to be really honest with you, it wasn't entirely my decision. We came to blows. We were at loggerheads, and I think looking back on it, it's a lot of it was I love writing. Writing music is one of my great passions, and it was a little bit from a symbolic point of view. Kim and Kelly just hit it off. I grew up with Kim, and we're a bit like sisters. Half the time we could kill each other, but we joined at the hip in a way. Right. We can't get away from each other. It's almost that sisterly relationship where, you know, sometimes you clash, but there's something very deep there. And yet Kim and Kelly just hit it off in the way, you know, like just as a writing team. And as Kim put it one time, many, many years later, she said it was a bit like you were the George Harrison of the band. In it, obviously, we're not deluded. We're not comparing ourselves in that way. But it's that when you have a songwriting team of two people that just meld together, right. It's kind of like I started to become almost like a spare part in the writing, and it was something I so passionately wanted to do. And originally, I did most of the lead vocals. In fact, on the original Hit and Run album, Kim only sang one lead vocal.
That's right.
And for 15 years after I'd left and then Kelly left, she was the one and only singer of Girls' School for about 15 years,
Right.
for that whole middle period. It was a lot quieter sort of time, but she sang every single lead. And yet in the beginning, it was mostly me. Kelly began to sing more and more, so on Hit and Run it was about half and half. But I feel, you know, there were 3 singers in the band, 3 writers, and there just wasn't space for me once Kim and Kelly had that partnership that was really working for them. And it just wasn't happening really. So, I mean, I was away for 18 and a half years, and I went and did a postgrad at Top Music College, and I wrote operas and did West End stage and lots of other music stuff, some teaching as well.
Yeah.
And I'm an astrologer too. So yeah, it was still music based, but then I miss, you know, I love doing a band, and this time round, there's been 3 of us writing, and I think the band's stronger for it. I think we've got 3 good writers in this band, and I think it's one of the strongest things that we have.
Well, I agree with you on that, but I did want to ask you about when you came back. You know, like you said, you're gone 18 years. Obviously, you're doing something else. You've got another job. You've got a whole other sort of life path. How does the decision come that, okay, let's go back and revisit this. Let's try this again. You know, is there a point where you say, I've got this new life, I should just stick to it and I shouldn't revisit the past? Or is it, I've got unfinished business. I got to do this right and finish this right.
Probably wasn't as logical as that.
Okay.
I think it wasn't like I went and had a new life for 18 years. It's like I had several new lives.
Right.
So,
but you weren't just waiting around for the invitation. It wasn't like, oh, please call me, girl. I mean, you weren't doing that, obviously.
No.
Of course.
It was, I mean, broadly, for a few years, I was working with a guy from Sham 69 writing, and with a disco producer, and trying, you know, and like doing country songs in playing in a pub on a Saturday night. I just did everything you can imagine.
Right.
College was just amazing because it was, you know, fantastic college. And so I came out and singing, teaching, and I got the chance to do opera, and I wanted to do more opera and stuff. And then that led to doing theatre, which was another new world altogether. And so when it got to about 99, I'd been doing acting, I suppose, for about 7 years, and did small-scale productions and a couple of shows in the West End. I did 2 1-years on tour, and you're doing 8 shows a week, 3-hour shows. It is absolutely grueling. Mm-hmm. And in one respect, it's really satisfying, and it's quite nice to just go on stage and do what you do and not have to worry about organising things. But I was finding that having to do exactly the same performance 8 times a week, and, you know, when you're an actor, you do auditions, you're dependent on somebody else telling you what to do, you're saying other people's words, you're singing other people's music. And I enjoy doing that to a certain degree, but writing is what I love. Right. And I got to, after 7 years, I thought, well, you know, I love doing theatre, but there aren't that many of the jobs that I really, really love and want to give up my life for. And I was starting to feel a little bit, I wanted to be a bit freer. And it was just at that point that Kelly left Girls' School, and Tracy as well. And so it was back to Kim and Denise. Right. And I just at that point said, right, I'm going to draw a line under acting. I want to go back and do my own music again. And Kim said, well, why don't you join Girls' School? And this was 99, and Jackie was playing rhythm guitar in bands, and she'd started to learn lead and stuff, and she was asked at the same time. And a year later, we kind of started gigging and doing it again. And it wasn't a conscious decision of unfinished business, okay. But because of being an astrologer, there's something called the nodal cycle, and it's literally 18 and a half years, and mine goes right across the career axis, and there's an element of fate with it. And the first time round with Girls' School, it was beginning at the very beginning, and there were hardly any women around at that time, and it was a particular experience, and occasional helicopters and limos, and it was a very magical time for music in many ways. But this time round, it's been much more, the chance to do a lot of writing, and to be, a lot of the time we've been running things ourselves and not had the big manager that not exactly told us what to do. We're a bit too rebellious for that, but to a certain degree, 30 years ago, you had the manager, the record company and the A&R guy, they're the ones that put up the tens of thousands to make it possible. Whereas now we're much more involved in we've got people working with us, but we make a lot of decisions ourselves. And there was a lot more freedom, and certainly a lot more chance to be creative, to sing, and most of all, to write, and to, and that, so it's very different. It's the same, and yet it's very different.
Well, let me explore that a bit. There's two things. First of all, when you came back and you put on the bass guitar and you stood there at rehearsals or on the stage with the band, what was that feeling like? Was it like, uh-oh, what have I done? Or was it like, okay, let's get this, how was that sort of emotionally for you? And also in terms of a band that was around 30, 40 years ago, and you're coming, the music world has changed. We all know that. Is it just a more pleasing experience because you have your own rules? There's less pressure. There's no, like you said, there's no A&R guy and record guy saying, you must do this, you must wear that, you must say this. Talk to me about both those experiences.
Okay. Well, in the first instance, Tim and I obviously grew up together, and we started gigging. I was 14, she was 15.
Right.
And that's pretty young, particularly at that time.
Sure.
And it's sort of, I'd always kind of sung. My dad was Welsh, and just natural walking around singing. And it was it's just more, I find life really strange and really difficult, like normal life that other people can manage. But just on stage playing, it's like breathing. It's kind of, it's like coming home. I feel it's more familiar, more comfortable. It's like putting on an old pair of pajamas or something. Right. It was very natural. And I guess over the years, I was doing, it was a mixture of performing, writing, teaching, and in distinct periods, and lots of different types of music, and slightly different worlds in the way things are, but it was still always music. So certainly the first few years I was writing and doing stuff in a band. When I was at college, I had a country and eastern band. And yes, you heard right. So it's kind of mixed.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to process that. I'm going, wait a minute, a British country and
country and eastern. Yeah, it was kind of like we had drums, percussion. Lead guitarist could play like Hendrix, but he also played accordion.
Right.
Clarinet and oboe, and I was playing bass, and it's a bit like and another guitarist who doubled on banjo. So it's like Hank Williams with a on top.
And of course, girls' school in the early '80s, there were different pressures. You were part of the new wave of British heavy metal. You were up against the Tigers of Pantang and Iron Maiden and all, and it was very male dominated, very testosterone driven. Now you're probably not facing that same kind of competition. Is it more enjoyable now?
Okay, but I've still got the other two. That's the third question.
Right, go ahead. Well, it's sort of all tied together, but okay.
Okay, all right. I'll go back, being Florian and systematic here. I'm going to go back to number one, and then work
our way up.
Okay. In 1990, so that was kind of at college, and doing a lot of very modern, experimental, classical music. Some of which is, you go way out there, but it broadens your mind, and then you come back and you go, well, I've learned something here, and it's good to be experimental sometimes. But then For example, I did the Buddy Holly story for a while, and also a show called Return to the Forbidden Planet, where it's Shakespeare set in the 1950s on a spaceship with all kind of 60s songs, and you have to play about 6 different instruments. So I was on stage every night playing the bass, but also the drums, the saxophone, the keyboards, the, whatever. And before that, in about 1990, I was organising a festival of women in music with a load of other people, and I was having one of my operas put on, but I was trying to get a female supergroup together, and we had bass player of Sisters of Mercy, and I got a couple of Girls' School and Toya Wilcox and a few people, au pairs from the old punk bands. And then the bass player dropped out, and they said, well, why don't you do it? And I wasn't putting myself forward, and we ended up playing a few Toya songs and a few Girls' School songs there, plus a few female covers. So over the years, I hadn't put the bass down completely. It was just part of, much, much bigger canvas. But yeah, so when I came back, it was absolutely,
right.
It felt comfortable, but very different. What was question number 2?
Just about the whole, do you enjoy being in girls' school now more than you did back in the day? Because, early 80s, like we said, there was the A&R guy and the record company and the manager.
Right, yes.
There was all this nonsense going on. Now you guys get to decide. You tour when you want to tour. You make an album when you want to make an album. It's the album you want to make without thinking about radio and this. Is it just a more enjoyable time to be in the band?
Well, it's very, very different.
Right.
And there are pros and cons to both. So I suppose, the world's constantly changing.
Right.
But over the last few years, it's been changing at a rate that's far faster than we can really keep up with. Everything is different. There are new rules. And so in the early days, I think particularly as we were very young, it was great to go on, big tours. And, we did have the odd limo and jet and so on. And that kind of, the world in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, it was all very, very exciting and, it was hard work and a bit mad and crazy. But that was exciting. But you had to live in London or LA or New York. You had to get a record deal. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of competition, and only a few people were going to come through on that. And it's great to play big venues and just get up on stage and let other people get on with the other stuff. But particularly as you get older, and particularly if you've got very strong personalities and you know what you want and what you love, it is good to be absolutely hands-on. It's like that DIY punk attitude. Yeah. You can record your own album on the computer, you can make your own videos, you can do your own sort of PR marketing or whatever you want to call it. You can speak directly to the people that come to your gigs and hear what they have to say, and that's something completely invaluable. But the other side of it is you've got a lot more responsibility. You spend a huge amount of your day doing things that are other than music, and it's much longer hours. So we love it, but there is a price as well to doing things. But the world has changed, and it's a privilege to have had the chance to be part of that crazy 70s, 80s manic, kind of sex, drugs, rock and roll sort of world, to have been part of that exciting era in a way. But it is great to really have a say in what you're. Although we have had some pictures come out that we have not authorised, we can assure you, everything that's really, really heavily photoshopped, we do not allow that.
Right.
So, but one or two have come out anyway. I'm thinking of a particular picture, but anyway. But yeah, we love having a say in stuff, and the fact that it is so much more hands-on, and you have much closer relationship with the people that come to your gigs and buy your music. So yeah, it's fantastic, but it is actually much harder work in many ways, and you have a lot more responsibility.
Longer
But
hours, but probably more rewarding since it's all, comes from the band and not this whole team. Enid, a great pleasure. It was a pleasure talking to you back at Heavy Montreal a couple
likewise,
of years ago, and you're coming to Montreal again in a couple of weeks. Very much looking
hey,
forward to the show. And
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I've sorry, I've got to go too. But that the third question, I'm so tired. I'm probably like some manic hyper woman.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, the one of the things because you were asking about you know doing it now is that in the beginning, I've always been the most feminist one in many ways, but in the
hmm
beginning, it was kind of like, don't tell us, girls have got to do this or that. We're going to do what we want. We love music. We're going to play it. We want to have adventures. We're going to go and have them. At a time where, certainly as we were growing up, girls were meant to be secretaries and nurses and stuff. But there's something quite defiant and rebellious about being women in our 50s and going, don't tell us how a woman in their 50s has to behave. It's almost like, again, living by your own rules if you're not hurting other people. And that's sort of the spirit of rock and roll. And we're also, certainly a couple of us are quite political now, and it's great to be able to sing about the things that you care about. And we've still got songs about going crazy and being on the road because that's still a big part of our lives. But there's also, as you get older, there's certain things, and climate change is right on our doorstep now, and there's things that really, really matter as well. So it's good to, so the band's gone through a lot of changes, but deep down we're still the same band, and we are really looking forward to coming to Montreal. It's going to be great.
oh, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Always a pleasure, and when the album comes out, we'll do a third one.
Okay, that'd be brilliant.
Happy to support Girls School, and then there you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Cheers.
Bye bye now.
All right, you too.
That was my interview with Enid Williams of Girls School. Remember to head over to the One-on-One with Mitch Lafon Facebook page and give that a like. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Mitch Lafon. That's all, folks. Cheers.